Law Talk with Nick Maruchak, thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
Nick Maruchak joins us from MKI Legal on this Thursday morning. G'day, Nick. How are you?
G'day, Bowie. I'm great.
Oh, that's good. Now, that's a Tommy Hilfiger jumper, and I like that. One of our listeners, Jeff, phoned in and said that he thought that bloke's name was Tommy Hilfengarden.
There's a funny story I'm wearing this jumper. My business partner asked me to bring in a green jumper because he's going to dress up as Ned Flanders on the weekend at a dress-up party, so that's why I'm wearing it today to give to him.
It sounds like a hell of a party. 133 882. If you'd like to speak to Nick Maruchak today, you can. Simon and Danny will get to you guys in just a moment. Ring in. 133 882 is the phone number. Nick, here to take your legal questions. Simon, good morning. How are you?
G'day, Simon. G'day, Nick.
Hello, mate.
Just a question about contesting a will. I lost my father and sister 6 years ago, and lost my mother a couple of months ago. I've got no other siblings, so it's just me on my own. Just wondering, my late sister's children, they've been given a substantial amount of money from my mother in the will. They're not happy with what they've got, so they think they're entitled to half, which is what my sister and I probably would have been getting. Just wondering if they have any right to contest the will.
Okay, so when it comes to contesting a will, there's only a class of people who can do it. So I just need to establish the relationship between the deceased person and the person who wants to challenge the will. So the relationship is one of grandparent and grandchild, right? The deceased grandparent died and the grandchildren are looking at challenging the will. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to that, grandchildren are in the class of categories that can challenge a grandparent's will, but they can only challenge it in specific circumstances, and they are if they are being maintained by the deceased immediately before death. So think of a situation where the grandchild is living with a grandparent and receiving money or school fees and stuff like that, or if the grandchild's parent died. Right. So they're the main situations that a grandchild can challenge a grandparent's will. If they don't meet that criteria, then they can't challenge. So do the grandchildren meet that criteria?
Well, yeah, because their mother died 6 years ago, my sister.
Then, yeah, so that would be something that, so then, because they would step in the shoes of your sister. And so this is the situation, right? They don't automatically get anything from the will. They have to, the court will look at whether the will should be adjusted, so whether they should be given something from the will, and they look at a whole bunch of factors regarding that. They have to launch a claim within 6 months of probate being issued. So at this stage, it's probably good to get some legal advice about that. So you'll go and get probate first, then that 6 month window ticks in. If they don't do anything within the 6 months, then the time limit's expired, and unless you extend time, that's it. So there's probably something that you might want to investigate it. Someone who I recommend is Elise Croft from Croftbridge. Croftbridge, they're in Perth. She does a lot of contested estates wills. So that's someone you can speak to about what are the prospects of them getting up.
How's that, Simon? Does that help? And I'm very sorry for your losses, Simon. That's a lot for one person to have to deal with and then to put up with this as well. Does that help you, mate?
Yeah, it gives me a bit of an insight. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll contact that Croftbridge and
get some
legal representation, I think, if they decide to do it.
Yeah, good luck, mate. That's and I'm sorry for those losses in the last 6 years. Simon, having a chat to Nick there. G'day, Danny.
Hi there. How are you, Nick?
Good, Danny.
My nephew was charged with a defaming or threatening a politician on Facebook. Now, they came out and arrested him and took possession of his computers and stuff. The date on the paperwork is wrong when he's gone to court, and they also cannot find the original evidence of him threatening this politician. Where does he stand in regard to being in court with that?
So when it comes to the paperwork is wrong, that's called the statement of material facts. That can be adjusted. Sometimes the prosecution may get a date wrong here and there. But when it comes to criminal law, the prosecution has the burden of proving the case beyond reasonable doubt, so they would need to tender that evidence. I wouldn't say too much about this case on radio because this conversation itself can be used as evidence, so don't give them anything. And so they have to prove it. Your nephew has the right to silence, which means that he can just sit there and go, well, prove the case. He can challenge the evidence to say it hasn't met the standard of beyond reasonable doubt. So this is one that I would get some legal assistance on. The government has a legal aid program where they do give criminal lawyers, your nephew access to criminal lawyers if he can't afford one. That's the route that I would go to. And if you get a criminal lawyer and if they've lost this key evidence, you would just challenge on that. And if everything goes well, the case will get dismissed because they haven't, or finding them not guilty. So that's the next step, legal aid and get a lawyer there. And you can also get a duty lawyer as well.
So that notion of, a Facebook post or a social media post is regarded as a publication and is published. Even if it's disappeared, it can be found, can't it? It's still regarded as published?
That's right. It is published, and it's we don't often hear of criminal defamation charges. It is actually an offence, and it does exist in the books, and so it doesn't happen often. But this case, it was a prominent figure, so it did happen. So they can get it. So it's the prosecution's job to try and find it, right? So they would have to do all kinds of stuff, like maybe they'll have to subpoena Facebook and go through that process to get it. I would imagine if it was published, then it would exist somewhere in the ether of the ones and zeros, but it's their job, so make it harder for them, not easier.
Does that help, Danny?
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks for phoning in. 18 and a half minutes to 11 o'clock. Mark is one of our listeners. He's an Uber driver, and I think you might have heard this while you were waiting to come on. It's a bizarre situation. Mark's an Uber driver delivering milk to an Australia Post outlet, delivers the milk, gets, according to Mark, and this is his version of events, he gets detained against his will. Let's have a listen to Mark from earlier on.
I had an order for 3 bottles of milk today for Australia Post Malaga. I went there and I was held against my will for over 10 minutes because the guy thought that I must be a terrorist because I was delivering milk to Australia Post.
A basic question, and this is Mark's version of events, Nick, in a very bizarre situation, if true. Not that I'm doubting Mark, but I guess there's always two sides to every story. Can a business hold a person against their will if they're regarding them as trespassing?
So this is there's a few things going on here, right? So Mark, on the face of it, may have a claim in tort for false imprisonment, right? So false imprisonment is a civil claim. Basically, it's where you have been prevented from leaving. So they restrict your freedom. So I've seen the video. They've closed the gate. He told them he wants to leave. They prevented him from leaving, right? So what happens here is Australia Post has to prove that they had some sort of authority, some sort of either statutory or common law authority to hold Mark. That's the question, right? So if he was in an area where he shouldn't have been, say it was potentially a trespass, then maybe taking steps to determine if a criminal offence has been committed or not may be reasonable justification. But if he wasn't in an area, if he was in an area that was easily accessible by everyone, then there would not be any justification, and Mark would get up on that. So it's on the face of it, there is a potential claim here. You're potentially right to Australia Post to assert that there's been that false imprisonment tort been broken, and then it comes down to, if he gets up on that, then it comes down to damages, right? And we have this law called the Civil Liabilities Act, which if you want to get damages for pain and suffering, then you basically have to cross this threshold, which is about $25,000. So if you sue someone and your pain and suffering under state law is less than 25K, you get zero. This law was passed by insurance companies as well. So if he's been detained for 10 minutes and maybe he's suffered $5,000 worth of pain and suffering, so that would be reduced to zero. So that's also a secondary issue here that may make it more difficult to commence this claim. But it's worthwhile calling a personal injury lawyer. They do these kind of claims all the time. They do often no win, no fee, giving them a call and just saying, hey, is there a claim here or not? Is it worth pursuing? So
thanks, Nick. Well answered. Bizarre set of circumstances, it would seem. And the other question that comes to mind for me is, do we get milk in bottles anymore?
We don't get it delivered, but I've seen them in the shops. I think bottles, milk, because of microplastics, right? So if you have a glass container, it's probably a little bit slightly more healthy for you, but they cost a lot more, don't they?
Thank you, thank you for going with me on that. 133 882 tort, TORT.
Yep.
I remember that from when I went to school a long time ago. 11:15. We'll come back. More of Nick Maruchak. Phone in 133 882. Milton's SMS'd you. Nick, he said, I'm about to study law next year, so I'm just finishing off my bridging course. It'll be online. I was wondering what undergraduate I'd have to take so I can go into the full law degree later on. Any tips you can give me, says Milton.
So once you've done your law degree, then you want to try and get some work experience. And then after you've graduated, you have to go and do some post
articles.
It's not. Yeah, they don't do it anymore. You do something called college of law, right? So you go to the college of law is where a lot of there's other education providers. You go there, they give you, some training for a few months, and then you have to do some work experience placements, right? So it could be 20 days up to 75 days, something like that. So that usually takes about 6 months to a year to complete after you graduated, and then you're a fully fledged lawyer, and you have to work supervised for 2 years.
So Milton's question is about what undergraduate course he should take, I think.
Well, you need to do a law degree. Yeah. So you'll need to, some unis will make you do an undergrad first before you do a law degree.
Can it just be a generic one, commerce?
Yeah, look, okay, so there's, I think anything that makes you more valuable, right? So if you want to go into, say, an area of like technology and law, you might do some sort of tech degree. I did a commerce degree, right? Something very general that really helps. But I think that there's a whole variety of great degrees you can do. So I can't really pick one at the moment, but just commerce is a generic one if you want to do that.
There you go, Milton. Hope that helped, mate. Commerce maybe, or if it is going to be more specific, IT or whatever it is. So thanks. Good luck, Milton. Thanks for getting in contact. So a long SMS from Robert here, Nick. I'll go through it as succinctly as I can. Nick, I recently won a court order against a tenant that had maliciously damaged my property to the tune of nearly $10,000. The former tenant has refused to reply to my emails to work out a way to pay their debts. I'm now looking at trying to enforce the court order, but it costs hundreds of dollars. There's no guarantee they even have a forwarding address. I've tried to ask the magistrate court if they can tell me if they have a forwarding address, but they will not disclose this. Just don't want to throw my money at this if they can't enforce it. Is there any way I can get the court to confirm if they have an address for the previous tenant?
So the court probably can't give that information, but this is... I'll give you some general overview of what you need to do. So you've got a court order. So the next step is to enforce the court order. That means you have to file some paperwork with the court. Then this person's brought into court, and then their wages might be garnished and stuff like that, right? But the problem is you have to kind of serve that, and serving means giving it to them by hand. So if you can't find someone, there is a process, right? You have to take reasonable steps to try and locate their address. One quick tip is the electoral roll. So if you go, everyone has to be registered to vote. You can go into the electoral office and you can go into their computers and find someone's name, right? So that's an avenue. Other ways that you can do an ASIC search to see if they own any businesses. Obviously, this guy is renting, so you can't do a Landgate search. So you try your best to try and find where this person lives. If you can't find where this person lives, then what you have to do is apply for substituted service. So you go to the court and say, hey, I don't know where this person is. I can't give them the court documents by hand. Can you please allow me to serve them by email? Can you please allow me to serve them by text message? So if you've taken all steps to try and find to try and give it to them by hand and you haven't been able to do that, then the court will give you substituted service, and it sounds like reading this message, he's got the email, so you can serve it by email. But I reckon just do this yourself. Ask the court the process. Hey, what's the forms for substituted service? Fill out an affidavit, and obviously take steps to try and find where they are now. So.
Yeah, well answered. Robert, I hope that helps. Let us know how you go, mate. That's very interesting. What was the Australian Electoral Commission angle you had there? You find
electoral roll, right?
Roll.
So these are the things that that you can't just go online and search for anyone's address. You have to go into person and you have to actually look in their computers and write it down, right? So they won't allow you to take any photos and stuff like that. Right. But that's a tactic that's often been found.
Really?
Yeah. And you have to wait for this guy. You have to kind of get on there. You have to update your details every time there's an election. So if this tenant updated recently, this recent election, you might have a current address.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. 133 882 is the phone number if you'd like to speak to Nick. We've got a couple of minutes if you'd like to give him a call. 133 882. Just a new court could see childcare payments become tax deductible. Really?
Yes. So the rule is from this. There's a precedent from the High Court from 1972 where someone tried to deduct nursery school fees, and the court said no. This is a private and domestic expense. You can't deduct it. So if you're going to deduct something on your taxes, it has to be used to produce assessable income, and it cannot be for private or domestic nature. Right. So we have this law firm in the eastern states that is preparing a claim on behalf of one of their clients to say, well, childcare fees are actually, help me earn assessable income, and so they're trying to get this really old law from the 1970s overturned.
Game changer.
It would be, and if that actually get up on that, then so many people can deduct their childcare expenses. Childcare is expensive. I've got a 4-year-old, and it's just a lot. So it would be a big win for a lot of working parents out there. The argument is that a lot's changed since 1971. Maybe back then there weren't as many single parents or working parents. Now the dynamics completely changed. So these people are arguing, this law firm's arguing, we just got to get with the times. And,
I didn't know you had a 4-year-old, Nick.
Yeah, just one little cheeky one.
A little Simon or a little Simone?
Yeah, a little Lev.
A little Lev, yeah. Little Lev, how cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you. 133 882, we could squeeze in a call if you'd like to ring Nick Maruchak. A lot of people are asking us when Steve Kilby's on. We've got a musician coming on formerly of the church, Nick, and he's going to be on. Is it 12:30, Sean? 12:30. Steve Kilby will be on. Listeners, for those of you that are asking, and we continue our yes/no poll. I'll bring you up to date with that on after 11 o'clock. WA's Legal Practice Board, Nick. There's been a hack, and it's his bank details of legal firms stolen. So it's a cyber investigation, and it's in our paper today.
Yeah, that's right. So the Legal Practice Board is the umpire that regulates lawyers. They allow lawyers to come into the profession. They kick lawyers out who are no good. They have a lot of control. So they've been hacked, and about 300 gigs of data has been stolen, and a lot of correspondence. But there's also some bank accounts of lawyers. The Legal Practice Board says that it's only a limited amount of bank accounts that have been disclosed, and they've already let those people know. But the Legal Practice Board went and got a court order to get an injunction, to get a court order to stop anyone from disseminating or reading this information. But the cat's out of the bag, and the reality is they don't really know exactly how much has been taken. And this hacking group is now going to start releasing things over the next month. So a lot of lawyers are worried, a lot of annoyed as well. Yep. I think the Legal Practice Board has got some egg on their face, and But this also coincides with a law's been passed in 2024 that'll probably take effect next year, which requires government agencies to take better steps to guard privacy.
Okay.
So this will apply to government departments, and this will apply to anyone who has services contracts for government departments.
Okay. Yep.
So it's so hopefully in 2026 when this takes effect, WA government agencies are going to get better at this because. There's so many hacks, and the Privacy Commissioner says that law firms are up in the top 5. They just easily target, especially small regulators that may have not done proper things to protect themselves.
Yeah, the cybersecurity is such a huge issue, isn't it? Nick, thank you. Thank you for your thoughts, compassion, and wisdom today. Look forward to catching up with you next week. Like the green jumper, like the Tommy Hilfiger jumper, like it.
Thank you, Bowie.
Cheers, mate. Nick Maruchak. MKI Legal, who'll be back with us next week at the same time. It's 3.5 minutes to 11 o'clock. Thank you for listening.